Episode 41, A Hell of a Park. It was the school holidays, and as teenagers, Ryan and his friends too wanted to stay out all night and search for a thrill-seeking adventure ride. They initially had a hard time convincing their parents to allow them to be out till the early morning. But after endless promises of studying harder the following year, their parents finally agreed. However, the group would soon realize that their decision would lead to a traumatic night that they couldn't forget even if they wanted to. So, on the afternoon before their night out, the group met at Ryan's home and decided that a night cycling session was something they always wanted to do, but just didn't know where to go. During the discussion, one of Ryan's friends, Tommy, suggested, "How about we cycle around the neighborhood? The night winds are so peaceful." "If you want peace, stay home, Tommy. We should go somewhere more exciting," said Troy. "Okay, then. What do you suggest?" asked Tommy. "How about we go to that Park of Hell?" asked Troy. "Park of Hell? What's that?" asked Ryan. "It's this cool place that I've always wanted to go but never got the chance to. There are many statues of creatures there that some believe are exact depictions of how they look like in the underworld," said Troy. "Sounds creepy, man. You sure it's open at night?" asked John. "Okay, here's the thing. Hear me out first. It's not open at night, but it's easy to get in as there's only one guard who just sleeps at night. So we just need to hide our bicycles nearby and sneak underneath the gantry, and we are in," explained Troy. "Are you sure it's a good idea, man?" asked Ryan. "Trust me, it is, and it's probably our only shot to go out at night. So let's make this an epic one," said Troy. After listening to Troy's motivational speech, his friends eventually agreed to go with the plan. The night finally came, and once the group arrived, they went according to Troy's plan. They parked their bicycles and creeped towards the entrance, and, as expected, they saw the guard sleeping at his post. So Ryan and his friends crawled underneath the gantry, entered the park, and stayed low until they were further in. Now that the security guard was no longer in sight, the group began looking around at the statues that stood before them. Ryan then said, "Now that we're here, where exactly you want to go to, Troy?" "To a particular statue right at the end later. But let's check out the statues here first. And take a look at this one, guys. The blue skin and horns on this looks so cool," said Troy. His three friends came over, and John read out the description of the statue and said, "Oh, wow. This creature is the guy that causes sleep paralysis. It says here that when you're about to wake up, it's when your soul is most vulnerable. That is when this creature likes to haunt you." "That's interesting. Not sure if it's true, but it's still pretty cool. Anyway, look at this, guys," said Ryan as he pointed to the statue behind the blue-figured statue that the group was looking at earlier. Tommy immediately read the description and said, "Okay, this one's scary. This is the one that brings you to hell and punishes you if you did horrible things in this world." "Hate to admit it, Troy, but thanks for bringing us here. This is actually really cool. I never knew this place existed, and even when you first told us about it, the place sounded iffy. But turns out it's pretty awesome," said John. "No worries. I didn't know it would be this interesting either," said Troy. "Oh yeah, anyway, why did you insist that we come here at night? We could come here in the day and we wouldn't have to sneak in," asked Ryan. "Oh, I almost forgot about that. I wanted to bring you guys here at night because I read online that a particular statue would actually disturb those wandering here after dusk," said Troy. "Wait, you mean it's really going to haunt us?" said Tommy. John joined in the questions and asked, "Really? Can statues do that?" Troy didn't answer the questions asked and instead gestured his friends to follow him towards the exact statue that he wanted to bring them to. From afar, They finally got to see the statue that Troy had talked so much about. It sat there in its massive stature, like an overly muscular, purple-scaled creature. With head like a bull and thick horns on it, it had black hair and fangs all over its mouth. John was most excited about the statue as he rushed forward first towards it and looked at it up and close. John then said, "Whoa, this is awesome. Look how enormous this thing is." Ryan, who was next to reach the statue, said, "Yeah, it states here that this is the most evil one of all. This statue is the one that persuades humans to create chaos, but to also harm themselves for pleasure. That's weird." "Yeah, this is the one that is haunted at night, and that we should avoid being here at all cost," said Troy. "Okay, then why are we here if we should avoid it? It's great that we got to see this place, but I think it's time we leave," said Tommy. "What? No way, man. We came all the way here. So let's at least stay here for another half an hour or so," said Troy. "Yeah, come on, Tommy. Just a while longer, and we'll leave," said John. As everyone else wanted to stay for a bit, Tommy eventually agreed, and the four friends just sat there and hung out while looking around at the scenery, while hoping that some sort of haunting would occur. However, to Troy's disappointment, nothing happened in that half an hour. So Ryan took the initiative and said, "Okay, guys, time's up. Now that we know it's a myth, let's go. I'm a little hungry, so we can hang out at that 24-hour convenience store near our neighborhood." The group of boys got up and, in a single row, slowly sneaked their way towards the entrance. They passed by the statues they saw earlier and saw nothing out of the ordinary, although Troy was still hoping that a spirit would appear in front of them. But as they were stealthily approaching the gantry with Ryan leading the way, Ryan looked back to check on his friends and noticed that John wasn't behind them anymore. Ryan then stopped and said, "Hey guys, where's John?" Tommy, who was third in line, turned around and said, "Oh man, I swear John was right behind me a minute ago. Where could he have gone to?" The three boys backtracked quietly to search for John. Eventually, when they arrived back to the haunted statue that Troy talked about earlier, that was when they saw John with his back facing them, sitting cross-legged as though he was praying and asking the statue for something. Tommy then asked Troy, "Hey, that is John. Oh no, what is he doing?" "I don't know, man. John looks possessed to me," said Troy. The group of boys then braved themselves and walked carefully towards John. When they saw John's expression, they were shocked and confused as John was crying and seeking forgiveness. "Hey, John, what are you doing, man?" said Ryan. But there was no reaction from John as he continued to seek forgiveness. "Oh man, John might be possessed. I think that's why he's not responding to us," said Troy. Just as they continued trying to grab John's attention, they were startled when the security guard suddenly appeared with his torchlight, shone at them, and said, "Hey." "Oh no, we are in so much trouble now," said Tommy, sounding worried. The security guard walked over and then said, "Hey you, what are you doing here, kid? We're closed and you shouldn't be here," as he looked at John and repeated himself while completely ignoring the other three boys. Ryan, Troy, and Tommy were confused as to why the security guard only spoke to John without acknowledging the rest of them. And to their further confusion, John stood up and said to the guard, "I'm sorry, sir. I am here to seek forgiveness. I know I shouldn't be here, but I was here with my friends, and suddenly they disappeared. I tried searching, but they're just gone." The three boys were really confused now, as John wasn't possessed all this while, and it seemed like John and the guard both just couldn't see them. The guard then called for the police. As the three boys still stood there, confused, the police soon arrived. The police acknowledged John and the guard before they began searching for the boys, even though they were right in front of them. That was when the three boys realized that it wasn't John who went missing. It was them that couldn't be seen by others. The three boys grew afraid and followed what John did earlier and apologized profusely to the statue. The boys begged and cried as everyone else continued searching for them. But soon after, they only remembered themselves feeling dizzy and falling asleep. They couldn't recall anything else afterwards. The next thing they remembered was waking up and seeing a few police officers and John, shining torchlights on them as they realized that they were lying down in one of the bushes in the park. One of the police officers then said, "Hey kids, are you okay?" "Guys, what happened? Where did you guys go to?" said John. As many questions were asked, the boys didn't respond as everything was a blur to them, as they too were unsure what had happened. The police eventually called all their parents and they were brought home safely before getting nagged at their respective homes. After all the years that it had happened, Ryan, Troy, Tommy, and John all wondered what actually happened that night. If it was indeed a dream that others couldn't see them, why did the three of them have the same dream? And why did they eventually wake up in the bushes? And why wasn't John haunted like the rest of them? It was a horror experience that left them confused till today. But although many questions were left unanswered, they learned a valuable lesson from that night, that no one should be there after closing hours, as enticing as the place was, even though it was a hell of a park.